Hello and welcome to the latest CraftySimulations video. In today's episode, I've got a bit of a moth problem. Hello and welcome back to Wickenby Airfield, home of general aviation here on the channel. So, obviously I like to cover general aviation, VFR flying, Cessnas, Pipers, all those sort of lovely aircraft. But every now and again I do like to have a little bit of a sit back with some military aircraft. And believe it or not, what is sat before you is a military aircraft. This is Ant's Tiger Moth. And I completely forgot this thing existed. And I really shouldn't have, because it is a really damn good aircraft. I remember this aircraft on FSX, and it was a really different style of aircraft. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because it was a great aircraft, even on FSX days, but it was an aircraft that nobody really expected to exist in the simulator. Nobody was asking for a Tiger Moth. And then Ants came out, and he gave us this wonderful recreation of a piece of iconic British aviation. And it has been upgraded and brought into the new simulators ages, so it is available for 2020, and I'm so glad that it is, because it just reminds me of how good this aircraft is. Now, for all those thinking this must be from World War One, it isn't actually. It first flew on the 26th of October 1931 and was retired in 1959. This biplane has been around for a long time. There's still a lot of them flying even today. There was 8,868 examples of the Tiger Moth that flew, and the primary users were the Royal Air Force, the Royal Canadian Air Force, the Royal Australian Air Force, the Royal New Zealand Air Force. So a lot of pilots in the early days of World War II, British and Commonwealth pilots, got their first crack of flying in a de Havilland Tiger Moth. So, going by the specifications of this aircraft, I mean, obviously, we ain't talking many weapons on this thing, but power plant-wise, we have one de Havilland Gypsy Major 4-cylinder air-cooled inverted inline piston engine developing, get this, 130 horsepower. 130. My cars have more than this. Maximum speed of 109 miles an hour, with a cruise speed of 67 miles an hour. And a stall speed of 40 miles per hour. Yes, that's right. This aircraft stalls at 40. A range of 302 miles, service ceiling 13,600 feet or 4,100 meters, and a rate of climb, it'll get there sometime. And weirdly, this thing was actually able to carry ordnance. So it could carry 8 20-pound bombs, 9.1 kilogram little bombs. But it was mostly known as a training aircraft. And like I said, most Commonwealth pilots got their crack at flying in a Tiger Moth. Now, in Britain, these things are iconic. There was a display team, I don't know whether they're still around anymore, called Diamond 9, or the Diamond 9 display team, I think it was, and they flew 9 Tiger Moths together. Quite an awe-inspiring sight, because these aircraft are, well, they're not fast. They can't get out of the way of each other if, things happen, and they are susceptible, shall we say, to wind conditions due to the fact of obviously being very light and not having that much horsepower under the hood. So it's a very unique sight to see 9 Tiger Moths flying together. So what do we get in the sim? Well, we get the DH-82 Tiger Moth, and we get a collection of repaints, textures. This one is a Royal Air Force training squadron. I can't think which squadron it's going to be, but it is Royal Air Force. There is the typical yellow trainers. There is the silver with, I think it's camouflage underside, and then there's all camouflage and yellow. There's all sorts of training colours. Brilliant to look at. Absolutely brilliant to look at. In fact, if I don't strangle myself with my headphone cable, which will be a first, if I bring up the drone camera, if I can get this to work, it's drone camera. I don't use a drone camera much in the sim, I really don't, but we'll have a little look-see at this aircraft, because it hasn't featured, well, I think it featured once in the live video many months ago when I first started, but just look at this thing. I mean, it is quintessential British aviation at its best. Our brave plucky pilot. Yes, that's right, the pilot does sit in the rear of the aircraft. The student would be sitting up front. Today, obviously, nobody's brave enough to sit in an aircraft with me. Fabric-covered wings, wooden struts. I think they're called wing struts, are they? I can't, ribs, I can't remember what they're called exactly, but it is a fabric-covered aircraft. And in great, great detail. Really is great detail. I mean, it's just, this is what blew me away the first time I got this aircraft in FSX. I mean, just look at the detail. I mean, you could just zoom in here and have a look at, yes, it looks a little bit of a poor rendition of the Gypsy Major engine here, but, you know, I am stretched this a little bit by zooming in this far, but it is fabulously believable. I would say, if I didn't click the wrong button there, but I would say that this aircraft, I believe it actually did win awards. I think it was nominated for like Best Aircraft in Flight Simulator or words that effect, Best Downloaded Aircraft in FSX days. I'm not so sure in 2020 days or 2020 days. I'm not sure if it's available for 2024 as of me making this video. I haven't had a chance to look at that, but it is a fabulous aircraft nonetheless. And even when we move inside, it still looks absolutely fabulous. Fabulously simple as well. We do get a bit of a texturing when I move the camera around here, which might be a nod to the old FSX days. I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether this is what we call a direct port or whether it's been inspired by the FSX version and then obviously brought into the new sim standards. I'm guessing it's probably the latter of the two. It's not a direct port because we do have a fully functioning cockpit with lots and lots of choices to play around with. It's a Tiger Moth. It doesn't have a great deal of bits and pieces to play around with. We do have flight controls, consist of the throttle and the mixture. And yes, weirdly, the mixture is, this is something for de Havilland Tiger Moths, is actually reversed. So at the moment on my Honeycomb Bravo, the mixture control is all the way back. So that would be fuel cutoff or mixture cutoff. And as I move it forward, the mixture comes back in the aircraft. And that is accurate. That's what Tiger Moths were fitted with. We do have a fuel shut-off switch here, which is clickable if I can find the click spot for it. So again, it is clickable. Obviously a very simple stick. Lock and unlocked. I'm not sure this is a tail wheel. I'm not sure. Hang on a minute. If that's brakes, I'm not sure. Can't remember off the top of my head. We have a trim. We do have horizontal trim. And that's about it. Instrumentation, we have the great airspeed indicator. I'm going to have to get rid of this blue highlighting business, but we do have airspeed over here. We have our rate and descent of climb, or ascent and descent. We have our slip and turn indicator. Okay, so that's two indicators in one. We have an RPM gauge, a compass that does function and is accurate for the period of this aircraft, and I haven't got a clue how that works. We have an altimeter, oil pressure, and very important, our speeds. And as we can see here, our stall speed of 40 knots, climb speed of 58 knots, and cruise speed of 75 knots. This aircraft is not quick and doesn't need to be. And obviously speed must not exceed 139, so we don't redline at, we redline, sorry, at 139. Obviously if we're doing 139 knots in this aircraft, that would be a miracle. But it is fabulous to look at, this aircraft. It really is. I was always impressed by this aircraft. We do have click spots for the hatch, for want of a better word. We do have a side hatch here, so we'll just click on that. And that's that shut. What I will say is, on startup of this aircraft, if you've never been in this aircraft and don't understand how the Tiger Moth starts, you're probably looking for the magnetos. The switches for the magnetos, because they are not in the cockpit. That's right, that's the wrong button. This is what I wanted. The mag switches are actually on the side of the aircraft. So we'll turn them on now because we'll probably start it up soon. So that is the Ants Tiger Moth. Thank you, joystick, just for moving there. Yes, this is the Ants Tiger Moth, and we are currently sat at Wickenby, my home airfield for this kind of aviation, and we're going to have a lovely little flight in this aircraft, and I will see you in a few minutes for the startup. So, welcome back to the Ants Tiger Moth, and I totally did not have a problem with Trackir, resulting in me having to reset the simulator. Oh, the joys. There's always something. Right, okay, let's have a little control check. We can probably see, yep. One thing you will notice with this aircraft is the sounds. The sounds are freaking fantastic. Absolutely awesome. Right, so mixture is going to come up. Fossil cracked. We did the mags already. And we'll put a parking brake on. And you can always tell when the parking brake's on this aircraft because we put the parking brake on, you'll just see these yellow chocks are actually placed in the wheels to obviously chock the aircraft. So that's our version of parking brake. I don't think there's a parking brake actually equipped with the Tiger Moth. So anyway, let's clip up. Love the sounds of this aircraft. We'll just lift ourselves up a little bit because it gives us a better view. I'm quite a tall person, so it's probably about true if I was in this aircraft wheel. So coming off the parking brake, let's roll out. Lovely spring day here at Wickenby. I will say, normally on the takeoff here at Wickenby, we do have the hump that's 3/4 the way down the runway. Oops. Yeah, if you do stamp on the brakes, you will flip the aircraft. Anyway, like I say, there is a hump about 3/4 way down the runway. We've seen it on every single video, and just about all the aircraft I've flown off here at Wickenby, we are either airborne due to the bump or just after the bump. Tiger Moth, not an issue on that. We'll be airborne well before that. There's no flaps on this aircraft, obviously, so I don't have to worry about that. So, clear on approach. So we'll notice, obviously, the issues of a tail dragging aircraft. Obviously, you can't see directly what's in front of you, but it's not too bad in the Tiger Moth. I mean, we've got good views all around, just not straight ahead of us. So, mixture is full, pop pitch we don't have, throttle is ready, mags are ready. Last control check. Let's go. There's 50, there's the bump, and we're airborne before it. There's 60 knots, climb speed is 58 knots, so we'll start our climb. Holding about 58 knots indicated. thing I think we do miss is the wind sound, because obviously there is no closed cockpit. You would be getting quite a battering from the wind, but we don't get that here on this aircraft. I don't think there's a better aircraft to just slowly see the world in flight sim. Whether it was the FSX days or now in 2020, this aircraft is still absolutely fantastic. Now it is safe to say this aircraft is not aerobatic. I mean, obviously, like I said in the start of the video, there was a display team that flew this very aircraft, 9 of them, in a diamond formation and other formations. So it is capable of being treated in a light aerobatic sense. But whereas most aircraft that are aerobatic, you kind of have an engine that has power and you can go into a manoeuvre being, as long as you're quite aware of your speed. The Tiger Moth, you have to be very aware of your speed, your altitude, to do a manoeuvre. Obviously you can't just yank the stick back and expect this aircraft to do a loop. One thing this aircraft does do is teach you stick and rudder flying, because that's basically all you've got, just a stick and rudder, a smallish engine and a lot of time. Just approaching 65 knots. And to put that into, well, put that into reflection, most of the aircraft on this channel, most of the normal G8 aircraft, take off around 80 knots at the minimum. Some of them in the 100 knots. I will obviously cruise around 120, 140 knots. This aircraft, no. You do not break 100 knots very often, unless you're on a dive. This aircraft is very susceptible to side winds or crosswinds. Most tail draggers are susceptible to a worse extent with crosswinds due to the fact, especially ones that have castering tails, which is what we have, or castering tail wheels. So if you do have a severe crosswind, it's very easy to ground loop this aircraft. Even in the air, winds, turbulence, they'll shake this aircraft around a little bit. But I think this aircraft teaches you a lot about how an aircraft does what it does. And I think that's obviously what the Tiger Moth was created for. It's a training aircraft, a very basic training aircraft. And it's fantastic. And this version by Ants, I don't believe there's any other Tiger Moths out there on the sim. I think there's a Fox Moth, I think. Flight Replicas, I think, did one some time ago. A relation to the Tiger Moth. I think it had the closed cockpit arrangement as well, and seating area at the front as well. So, off the top of my head, there's lots of different versions of the Tiger Moth and of the Moth family. I find if I'm just a little bit stressed, you know, life outside of the flight sim, I go into the flight sim, I get in this aircraft, I can just look around and it's just beautiful. It is what I said at the start of the video, a stick and rudder aircraft. Obviously I've got Whirlpool rudder pedals, and during a turn you do find yourself using the rudder. So like I said, this aircraft teaches you a lot about how aircraft do what they do and why they do it. And to get the best out of it, you do need to use all your controls. You can't fly this aircraft obviously without rudder pedals, but you get a better result, I think, with rudder pedals, which I think is about the same as any aircraft really in the sim. We are going to chop throttle a bit here as we start our approach. We're not going to land here, but not yet anyway. As you can see, we're up to 80 knots. Nearly supersonic for a Tiger Moth. But you have good visibility, great visibility. I mean, I've been in Cessnas in previous videos, high-wing Cessnas, and they suffer, all high-wing aircraft suffer. But this aircraft, at the moment, you know, it's brilliant visibility. Using the Burning Blue Designs Wickenby. Definitely one of the best pieces of scenery available for the sim if you're into general aviation. So we'll start our right hand turn, we'll go around this house and we'll start our circuit to land. Very simple landing checks to this aircraft. We don't have flaps to worry about, we don't have undercarriage to worry about. We obviously have our engine settings, power settings to worry about. And that's really about it. Just keeping visual with the runway. The stall speed is 40 knots. And a very good landing for me. I was practicing earlier on, and yeah, I bunny hopped it a few times. Obviously, Trackir coming into its own here. Absolutely a joy to fly. So, Tiger Moth, Ants Tiger Moth, DH82, absolutely awesome. Still one of the best all-round aircraft here in the sim. I know it doesn't fulfill a lot of people's fantasies of flight when it comes to Flight Simulator. A lot of people like airliners, a lot of people like the fast jets and all that kind of stuff. Obviously this channel caters sort of more towards the general aviation VFR style flying. This aircraft is that aircraft. It is that damn good. It sounds exactly like a Gypsy Major. It really does. I've stood next to a few Tiger Moths in my time, and this thing sounds exactly like it across the whole of the sound spectrum. Start up, run up, in flight, external, internal, and shut down. Sounds exactly like a real Gypsy Major. Obviously, the only downside I could possibly say with this aircraft would be the fact there's no wind noise when you're in the cockpit. Obviously, you are exposed to the elements a little bit, but this aircraft doesn't have those sounds. I don't know why, but maybe it's a link from the FSX days. Another downside is, again, we get this little, obviously they've stopped now, but yeah, you just move your head a little bit, you get this little flickering effect, which is, again, I don't know whether it's a nod. It's also in the compass here as well. Might be a nod to the FSX days, I'm not sure. Like I said, it is an aircraft that was available for FSX. Might have been available for FS 2004, I'm not 100%. But it is a designed aircraft for 2020. I am not going to say it's available for 2024, and I just don't know. It might very well be available for 2024, but It's not like a port of an aircraft that we get that's made available for free. It is a payware aircraft, and it has been brought over to, at the very least, 2020, and it's been brought over brilliantly. It's available from Ant's main website. I'll put a link in the description below to where you can purchase this aircraft from. If you're interested in this aircraft, I really do think it's a very worthwhile addition to anybody's virtual hangar if you're into general aviation, or just, like I say, learning how aircraft do what they do. This aircraft is that good. So if you have any questions or comments, please bang them below. I will more than happily answer them about the Tiger Moth. And on that note, I will see you in a future Microsoft Flight Simulator video very, very soon.